You've arrived at Unlearn with Louisa, the self-development podcast where we explore the beliefs, patterns, and behaviours we've all unconsciously picked up along the way. Whether it's in relationships or how we treat ourselves, here we focus on unlearning our past to create the future that we actually want. Let's get into it. Welcome to Unlearn. If this is your first time here, welcome to a podcast where we unlearn the behaviors and thought patterns and mindsets and belief systems that keep us stuck in some pretty unhealthy and unhelpful relationship patterns. So hopefully manifest the best relationship you could possibly have, whether that be with yourself or with your partner. If you are a returning listener, thank you for being here. Welcome back. I hope you're doing okay. Now, before we get into the episode today, I just want to remind you guys, if you do love the podcast, it would mean so much to me if you could leave a review either through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, just thumbs up the video or comment below. Now, today we are talking about the mindset of being low maintenance or being the chill girl or the chill guy or the easygoing person that doesn't have boundaries and just allows whatever to take place in early dating. And this mentality will bite you in the ass. Like, let me tell you, if you've been a long-term listener of the podcast, you will know that this was a mentality I had to personally unlearn myself. I didn't even realize I was doing it. Like, I didn't even realize that I was lying to myself at the start of my long-term relationship. I was just so desperate to be chill and, date the guy that I was interested in that I didn't respect my own needs and boundaries because I didn't actually know that my needs and boundaries were valid. I had come from this really codependent relationship that I didn't want to be a part of anymore. I didn't like that dynamic. I didn't think it was healthy for personal growth. I'd gotten into this new relationship with this guy that had never been in a long-term relationship before, and he was quite against relationships, and so I thought that he knew better than me. I was quite young at the time, obviously, and well before I'd done much work on my relationship patterns. And I thought that I needed to be okay with everything. So that person had like quite a close friendship with someone he'd had a sexual relationship with just before me. And I thought that it would be controlling to have boundaries around that because I'd experienced control in the past. Obviously now I know there's a middle ground, from doing the work, and like it's pretty obvious when I say it, like obviously there's a bloody middle ground, like whatever I don't feel comfortable with needs to be discussed. But at the time, I wanted to be the chill girl. I wanted to be the cool girl. I thought that I had to be comfortable with everything. I thought I had to be this perfect, low maintenance, do whatever you want, easygoing girl in order to gain the relationship. And what happened as a result was I set him up to fail, and I set myself up to fail, because once I felt safe and secure in the relationship, and once the relationship was going along quite nicely and I felt safe to voice my true feelings, we had conflict because it came out sideways. I had a go at him, and I was upset with him for continuing in this friendship that has never been a problem. But like now that I felt safe and my attachment patterns weren't playing out, I felt safe enough to voice, hey, like this isn't okay with me. And obviously for him that came out of nowhere. Basically it was a whole situation that could have been avoided if I'd done some self-exploration and I'd listened to my intuition and I'd had some boundaries and whatever. And obviously the person I am today, that would have never happened. But that's what brings me to this episode. If you are in early dating with somebody and you have an anxious attachment and you feel like you perform or fawn for love, or maybe you don't actually have awareness that you do that, but you feel like you can't put boundaries in because that person will abandon you, or you feel guilty when you tell or state your needs, this episode is for you, okay? I need you guys to listen to this. And if you have people-pleasing tendencies, if you are somebody that prioritizes what other people think and feel over yourself, this is going to feel quite unnatural for you. And it's going to take some daily practice And you're going to have to sit with feelings that are quite uncomfortable in order to heal this pattern and in order to back yourself in these relationships. It's not going to just be an easy fix of like, okay, I have awareness over this, now I'll do that. Like these people pleasing and fawning and trying to be low maintenance in a relationship at the beginning in early dating is a survival technique. This is a survival pattern and behavior that people often use in order to survive. So at some point, whether it's in your childhood, maybe in high school, you learned that if you pleased other people, if you compromised yourself and your boundaries, you would survive. Whether that be socially, whether that be when you were a child and like you knew that if you did what your mum said, then you got fed, you got watered. It is a survival technique within us in order to live another day, right? As human beings, we're these animals, we have this system within us, this attachment system within us that helps us survive. And so if your safety or your attachment was compromised as a child, if you were authentic or you had big emotions or you stated your needs, if you were punished or sent to your room or told off or, you weren't fed dinner or whatever it was, if you said, oh, I don't want to eat that, I don't like that, well, you're going to your room, you're not eating that, like whatever happened in your family home, that can create this belief system that, okay, no, I need to do what you say, I need to people please, I need to manage and be hyper vigilant of other people in order to be safe here emotionally, in order to get my needs met. So in adulthood, we want to unlearn that, because when we set relationships up from that standpoint, we're not actually building healthy, authentic connection. And what can happen, and this was my experience many years ago, was that I built a relationship from that place. And then years into it, I realized that the relationship didn't meet any of my needs. And although it was a successful relationship in a lot of capacities, it wasn't authentic to me. And it wasn't that I was a bad person for, setting up the relationship like that, but it allowed me to realize I'm allowed to need different things in relationships and build relationships from that place. I just need the courage in order to back that when I'm in early dating. And so that's where this low maintenance crap comes from. And I mean this specifically for women and for certain personality types. If someone needs you to be low maintenance and submissive, that is an unhealthy relationship dynamic. If someone needs you to be submissive and low maintenance in order for a relationship to work, what you're essentially saying is you have to be in control in order for this relationship to work, and I have to compromise and conform to what you want to need. That is not an equal, healthy relationship. Okay, so we want to stop enabling that relationship pattern, because guess what happens down the track? You're feeling suppressed, you're feeling smothered in this relationship, and it's because, hang on, I'm attracting these people that want this submissive, unhealthy, suppressed woman or man. And it's about creating first, to move away from those types of relationships, we have to strengthen our own voice and strengthen our boundaries. So that brings me to boundaries are sexy. There is nothing sexier than a boundary. You will know it yourself. When someone sets a boundary with you and they have self-respect, it has the complete opposite effect. Our fear when someone sets a boundary is that they're going to run away or they're going to reject us. But usually what happens is the opposite happens. People pull forward. They're intrigued. They're attracted to somebody that has self-respect, that knows what they want, that knows what their capacity is, rather than somebody that is just going to do whatever you say. Now, if somebody responds badly to a boundary, that is information not to progress. You want to set boundaries early and say no early in order to see how they react to that. If people react badly to your boundaries, like I've had this before with clients, I was in an early working relationship with a client, I set a boundary and she did not respond well to that boundary. Instead, she, reacted quite bad. She tried to manipulate me. She tried to turn other professionals against me and like make things up and say sorts of things because I'd set this boundary. And I realized, okay, well, this working relationship isn't good for me. Like, no matter, we were going to have a long-term working relationship. And I thought, absolutely not. If you can't respect what I need in this working relationship, if you can't respect my boundaries, then I can't continue here. So you want to know as early as possible how they will respond to what you need and want. But before you do that, you obviously need to discover what even are your boundaries. And this is the thing with people that people please, is often they don't even actually know what they need and want in relationships. Often they think, they're just faced with somebody else and they're like, oh, that sounds good. Like, I'll just do that. So it's about discovering who you are and what do you need in a relationship. And obviously this is something like you would usually do in a coaching session or the work you would do with me. But just as a little pointer, what you can do today is you can think about the relationships that haven't worked for you or the situationships that haven't worked for you and figure out, well, what does that mean that you need and you're looking for in a partner? So for example, if, I'm trying to think of something for me, I know that one of my needs in a relationship is that when I have an emotional experience, your response to that is nurturing rather than logical. I don't connect well with men who try to logically remove how I feel. I prefer a guy that is more comforting and kind and nurturing and loving. That is a need that I have in a relationship. So like if I came across a guy that when I'm experiencing something, they go, oh, well, you'll be right. This is what you need to do. Get on with it. I know that that relationship is going to lead to conflict. I know that that is like an emotional maturity level that doesn't connect with me. And it's not that he's wrong or I'm wrong. It's that this is my need and that's their way of seeing life and it's just not compatible. And that's the thing with relationships, is often we can get into this story that there's like a right and a wrong about what to do in terms of what your boundaries and needs are. I know lots of people can look at other relationships and have a lot of judgment on how they work and function. Like, for example, I've seen relationships where the partner might make comments on what my friend wears or whatever. And for me, that is like a massive red flag. But for my friend, they actually quite like that input and they quite like that sort of father figure energy. And it's not for me to judge. It's about what you want and need in a relationship. And that has to be priority. So find out who you are and what you are looking for. What do you need in a relationship? And write a list. And if you don't know where to start with that, go back and look at where your relationships didn't work and what you didn't like and start there. So then you want to build a relationship from who you truly are. Because when we build relationships, we want to see it as we are auditioning the person to whether they work with our personality. If you are going into a relationship trying to be low maintenance, trying to be the chill girl, you're not going to actually know whether this person is compatible with who you are and what your needs and wants are. You want to build a relationship from your authentic truth, and it is better to know earlier than later because the attachment wouldn't have set in about whether this person can be aligned with what your truth is. Through all of this work, what you're doing is you're trying to break the approval pattern. So a lot of people with anxious attachment have a pattern in order to look externally in order to be approved. So they want other people to like them. They want other people to validate them in order to feel enough and feel okay. And when we're faced with a new relationship, it's very easy to sort of fall back into that default setting of wanting that person's approval in order to feel safe in the connection. Now, what you want to do is to break this pattern of approval seeking. That is a daily regulation task. So, you can obviously cognitively go, hey, like I don't want to look to others for approval anymore. But this is a subconscious driver. This is an unconscious mind setting. So you've got your conscious mind where you think, feel, and do, which you're conscious of, and then you're aware of, and then you've got your unconscious mind, which is like your past experiences, your beliefs, your programming that has been impacted by your past experiences. So that is where that approval seeking pattern lives. You don't have conscious awareness over until maybe later when you reflect. So it's about regulating and creating space for yourself and creating a dialogue between yourself earlier on through daily regulation, like a morning routine or something that is for you, in order to have space to actually have awareness over that pattern playing out. Because if you're just getting up in the morning, going straight into relationships with people, you're on autopilot. You're reacting to your environment. You're not in control. You're not in your parasympathetic nervous system. Now, a big one with being low maintenance is what can happen is we have this self-doubt dialogue that comes up. So if somebody is doing something in early dating that you don't love, for example, maybe like you're getting to know somebody and they ask you to do something that you don't want to do, or they do something that doesn't sit right with you, but then you have this like overwhelming self-doubt about whether or not you're even allowed to feel like that. And so you don't say anything. So you go, okay, I feel uncomfortable with that, but I think I should be okay with that, or that person would be okay with it. So like I shouldn't say anything. And we suppress. You want to create a safe dialogue with people around you, your closest friends or your coach or your therapist or your journal at least, about what you're experiencing. Because sometimes when you have these systems in place, these people-pleasing systems in place, it isn't till you voice it to somebody close to you that you realize, hang on, like I'm valid in how I feel. Like that person has a boundary around that as well. But what you want to discover is what your truth is and what you need, what your boundaries are, and stick by them. That even if somebody close to you might be okay with it, you're still empowered to go after what your boundaries are. So when you're dealing with that self-doubt about, oh, is this too much? Like, oh, I don't want to put the pressure on, or I don't want to say that because that might do this, that is your warning sign. As soon as you go into those thought patterns, it's time to think about what is coming up here and how you want to handle it. And it might not be dealt with the other person, but it might be an adjustment to how you see that person. For example, maybe you realize, okay, this is just casual for me, or this is, not going to go anywhere. And maybe I'll set a boundary with myself around how long I'll engage in this relationship for. You want to discover that through exercises like journaling, like, talking to friends, like doing the work. And I'm losing my voice. Self-doubt, oh my God, what is going on? Self-doubt breeds low maintenance, the behavior of trying to be low maintenance, or the chill girl or chill guy. So combating your self-doubt with what would a secure, empowered person do with full self-esteem? What would they feel is the right decision here? Like how would they, if they weren't afraid of this person rejecting them, what would they say and do? And that question and the answer to that question is usually how you should approach the situation. Thank you for listening, guys. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, again, please leave a review or send me a message on Instagram if you would like to work together, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for getting to the end of the episode, and congratulations for choosing to create a future that's actually yours. If you got something out of this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, and keep up to date with me by following wherever you listen to this episode. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you could also leave a review. If you want more from me, you can find me on any platform at Unlearn with Louisa, or head over to my website unlearnwithlouisa.com to work with me as a coach. And I will see you at the next episode.